Today we're going to talk about Lise Meitner, truly one of the most brilliant physicists of the 20th century. Her story is just incredible. It's one of groundbreaking discovery, of profound injustice, and ultimately, a legacy that just outshines all of it. But you know, the heart of her biggest breakthrough, the thing that changed everything, it really boils down to a simple question. How did a walk in the snow literally change our understanding of the universe and kick off the atomic age? Okay, so picture this. It's Christmas, 1938. Lise Meitner is a physicist in exile, and she's walking through a snowy forest in Sweden with her nephew, Otto Frisch, who's also a physicist. They're trying to wrap their heads around this very confusing letter from Berlin, and as they're walking, an idea starts to click into place, an idea that looks a lot like what you're seeing right here. So that letter, it was from her partner of 30 years, Otto Hahn. He'd been doing these experiments in Berlin, zapping uranium with neutrons, and the results he was getting were, well, they were just baffling. The science at the time said you might chip a little piece off the uranium atom, but his analysis showed he was creating barium, which has only about half the mass of uranium. It just seemed physically impossible. And then, walking in the snow, Meitner has this flash of genius. What if the nucleus wasn't chipping? What if it was splitting? She pictured it like a wobbly drop of water that stretches and stretches until it just tears itself in two. They quickly did the math on a scrap of paper, using Einstein's famous E equals mc squared, and they realized the energy that would be released would be absolutely immense. Right there, in that moment, they had just figured out nuclear fission. So how could she solve a puzzle that stumped even the brilliant chemists back in Berlin? Well, to get that, you really have to understand who Lise Meitner was. Albert Einstein himself used to call her the German Marie Curie, and believe me, it was for a very good reason. From the very beginning, this woman was a trailblazer. We're talking about a time when women were hardly even allowed into universities, and she becomes only the second woman to get a doctorate in physics from the University of Vienna. From there, she co-discovers a new element and eventually becomes Germany's first ever female full professor of physics. Just incredible. For 3 decades, she and the chemist Otto Hahn were this legendary scientific team. He was the expert on chemistry, she was the expert on physics. And make no mistake, she wasn't some junior partner. She was a giant in her field, a respected peer among the greatest minds of her time, right there in the mix with people like Albert Einstein. But this brilliant world of scientific exploration was about to be absolutely shattered, because the rise of Nazi Germany wasn't just going to end her career there. It was going to threaten her very life. You know, the persecution was gradual, and then all at once. Even though she was a Christian convert, she was of Jewish descent, so the Nuremberg laws got her stripped of her professorship. For a while, her Austrian citizenship gave her a little bit of protection. But then, in 1938, Germany annexed Austria. And just like that, her protection was gone. Her passport was declared invalid. All of a sudden, one of the top scientists in Europe was a prisoner in her own country. Her escape was something straight out of a spy movie. In July of 1938, her friends, Dutch physicists, secretly arranged to smuggle her out of Germany. She left with basically nothing. 2 small suitcases, only 10 marks in her purse, and this diamond ring that Otto Hahn had given her, just in case she needed to bribe the border guards. She slipped across the border into the Netherlands, and she was free. And get this, just 5 months after that terrifying escape, the discovery of fission happens. She provides the crucial insight from exile, but when it came time to hand out the credit, a really profound injustice was about to take place. Let's be really clear about who did what because it's so important. Hahn's team in Berlin did the brilliant, groundbreaking chemistry that produced this result that nobody could explain. But it was Meitner and Frisch who provided the physics, the actual explanation for what was happening. They gave it the name fission, and they were the ones who understood its world-changing power. So Hahn had the puzzle, but Lise Meitner had the solution. So, fast forward to 1945. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences announces the winner of the 1944 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for this monumental, world-altering discovery. And the prize went exclusively to Otto Hahn. Meitner's foundational work, the very theory that made the discovery make sense, was completely ignored. For decades, official histories, even museum exhibits like this one, gave all the credit to Hahn alone. 49! Just let that number sink in for a second. That is how many times Lise Meitner was nominated for a Nobel Prize in either physics or chemistry. 49 times. She never won. So why? Why was she overlooked? Well, Decades later, when the Nobel archives were finally opened up, the reasons started to become pretty clear. As the journal Physics Today put it, the committee really didn't understand interdisciplinary work, they were biased, and honestly, they just rushed to a decision during the chaos of the war. But here's the thing. The Nobel Prize is not the final word on a scientist's legacy. And in the decades that came after, history started to correct the record and give Lise Meitner the vindication she deserved. While that one prize in Stockholm eluded her, she was showered with other huge honors from all over the world. A really big one came in 1966, when she, Hahn, and his other colleague Strassman were all jointly awarded the prestigious Enrico Fermi Award in the US. It was a powerful, public acknowledgement of their shared discovery. But maybe the greatest honor, the most permanent one, came in 1997. Element 109 on the periodic table was officially named meitnerium. I mean, that's a kind of scientific immortality that's reserved for the absolute giants. And she's still the only woman who isn't a figure from mythology to have an element named exclusively for her. Lise Meitner passed away in 1968. She was 89 years old, and she was buried in a quiet little English village right near her brother. And her nephew, Otto Fresh, yep, the same young man she walked with in the snow all those years ago, he wrote the inscription for her headstone. It captures everything, just perfectly. Lise Meitner, a physicist who never lost her humanity. Think about that. In the face of sexism, anti-Semitism, and professional betrayal, she didn't just change the world with her mind. She held on to the very core of who she was. Now that is a legacy far more powerful than any prize.